Imagine this. Your product, worth thousands of dollars, is just sitting on a dock, completely unable to ship. The clock is ticking, fees are piling up, and your customer, they're getting furious. So what caused this absolute nightmare? It wasn't a storm, it wasn't a strike, it was a single typo. Today, we are diving deep into the critical and often overlooked world of export documentation, and more importantly, how you can avoid these incredibly costly mistakes.
So, let me just ask you a question. When you think about what holds up international shipments, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it, I don't know, terrible weather? A major problem with the ship itself? Something really dramatic?
Well, believe it or not, the answer, way more often than not, is this. A single, simple mistake on a piece of paper or, a digital file. It's almost always the small, overlooked details that end up causing the biggest and most expensive headaches for anyone trying to export goods.
So how do we avoid this mess? Well, here's our game plan. We're going to start by really unpacking that exporter's nightmare. Then, we'll get into the most common pitfalls you'll find in primary documents and official regulations. After that, we'll look at the simple human errors that can cause total chaos, and finally, we'll tally up the true and honestly staggering cost of getting it all wrong.
Okay, so really picture this. Your container is packed and sealed, it's at the port, the ship is literally right there, ready to sail, but your container gets left behind. Your goods are stuck, your customer is waiting, and the clock is just ticking on fees and penalties. And it's all because of one tiny error on one single document. That's the high-stakes reality we're talking about here.
So, where do things actually go wrong? Let's start with the absolute basics, the foundational paperwork. These are the core documents that every single export shipment completely depends on.
First up, we've got the shipping bill. You can pretty much think of it as the passport for your goods. Now, if you get the classification code wrong, even by a single digit, customs will detain the shipment and slam you with a penalty. And it gets even more serious if you declare the wrong value. That can lead to heavy fines and even the potential for having your entire shipment confiscated.
And that brings us to the golden rule for your commercial invoice and packing list: consistency. The description of your goods, the quantity, the weight, every single detail has got to be perfectly identical across all your documents. Any mismatch, even a tiny one, raises a huge red flag for customs. That leads to questions, and questions lead to major delays right there at the port.
Now, take a look at the fallout from a tiny typo on the bill of lading. This document is literally the title deed for your goods. If you misspell the name of the consignee, the person who's supposed to receive the shipment, or you get their address wrong, the shipment simply cannot be released. It can't even be loaded. Your cargo is effectively locked down, and fixing it is a slow, costly process that can completely derail your schedule.
Okay, so beyond that core paperwork, there's a whole other layer we have to deal with: the official permissions. These are the documents that prove your shipment meets all the necessary rules and regulations to even be allowed to leave the country.
A certificate of origin can be a really powerful tool. It can let your importer pay much lower taxes because of a free trade agreement. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. Your goods have to actually qualify by meeting very specific rules of origin. If they don't, the certificate gets rejected, your buyer loses that huge tax benefit, and your business relationship can be seriously damaged. It's not just about a document, it's about trust.
This one right here is an absolute deal breaker. If your product needs a specific license to be exported, say a special permit for agricultural goods, that license has to be valid. An expired permit isn't a small problem you can just fix later. It means your goods can be held indefinitely by customs with no clear release date in sight.
For certain products, especially things like food, chemicals, or pharmaceuticals, you have to prove they're safe. That means having valid inspection certificates or test reports. If those are missing or invalid, it's an automatic no from customs. They simply will not let potentially unsafe goods leave the country. End of story. Now, we've talked about a lot of complex rules and codes, but honestly, some of the most costly errors are the simplest ones. The basic human mistakes that get made when people are under pressure.
It often comes down to the most basic stuff. A forgotten signature or stamp, a blurry scan where you can't read a crucial number, or submitting your paperwork just a few minutes after the vessel's cutoff time. Each of these seems so minor, right? But any single one of them can stop a valuable shipment dead in its tracks.
So this brings us to the bottom line. What is the actual tangible cost of getting this stuff wrong? Let's take a hard look at the financial fallout.
And look, this isn't just a friendly warning. This is a direct quote pulled from customs law. Misdeclaration isn't taken lightly. The consequences are written into the regulations, and they are absolutely severe.
This slide just says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you have the plan. This is what's supposed to happen. The vessel sails on time, you make your profit, and your customer gets a smooth delivery. But then, there's the reality of a documentation error. Your goods are denied loading, you get hit with heavy fines and fees, and customs might even order a full 100% physical inspection of everything. It's a complete nightmare.
So let's just quickly break down that fallout one last time. First, your goods miss the boat. Second, you are facing direct monetary penalties. Third, you could be subjected to a time-consuming physical inspection. And finally, you're racking up charges for storage and handling for every single day your cargo just sits there at the port. The costs just keep climbing and climbing.
And all of this leaves us with one final, crucial question. When you're exporting, your documentation shouldn't just be some task you have to get through. It should be a strategic asset that ensures a smooth, profitable transaction. So after seeing all this, it's really worth asking yourself, is your current process turning your paperwork into an asset, or is it just a major liability waiting to happen?